Hello, welcome to Autistic Chess Openings. We're covering the Scotch Gambit as white, line number 9. All right, let's review today's line. And we're dealing with the bishop to c5, which we respond to with knight to g5. We're dealing with this one again for the third time. We've covered it twice before, and we covered knight h6, which is their only good move and the most common. We've covered knight to e5, which is tactically difficult to punish optimally, but puts us the most ahead. And today we're covering d5. And that might look like an obvious blunder. Why would anyone play that? Well, it's because they want to follow it up most of the time with bishop, after we take it, bishop to e6, which is a common pattern in Black's defense against the Italian game called the two knights defense. And so they think it'll work here, but it doesn't. So half the time they follow it up with bishop to e6, and it just fails outright. If we can see this queen to h5 check right now, that we're going to clear off the 5th rank and the f-pawn in order to pull off. So we take with the knight, they take back. Do not make the mistake of taking their pawn on e6 now. Take their knight on c6, trade off, double up their pawns, and then go queen h5 check, and now you've won a piece for a quick and easy win. They go g6, we take that bishop on c5, and now that they're down a bishop, their most common response is to go knight to e7. So if they don't resign at this point, we're going to punish that optimally. We go bishop g5 so they don't weasel out of it, pinning that knight, and their top engine move and most common move is to go queen d6, which puts us into a nice queen trade. So we trade off, and they get to undouble their pawns. They think that helps them, but now we've got this fork. Do not take their knight here like 75% of players did at this point. Go bishop f6, attacking their rook and their d4 pawn. Pick up that d4 pawn. They went rook to f8. Pick up that d4 pawn, and now it's not stopping your knight from going to c3. It's not just a pawn in an endgame, which is more valuable because it's an endgame, but it's also a central pawn that was preventing your knight from going to c3. So it was going to be a thorn in your side, especially if he started pushing other pawns to back it up, and they have a big pawn mass in the middle. So pick that extra pawn up to prevent that. They go c5, we go bishop e3, and now we are a bishop and a pawn ahead in an endgame, which gives us a very high chance of winning this game. All right, let's get into the details. So, Scotch Gambit, let's get the mapper up. For those of you who this is your first video, this is my custom program. It maps chess. Every single one of these is calculated to a depth of 200 million nodes. That's like 200 million positions off of this position if they go d6. And I just say 41 points right here where it says 0.41. So that's 41 100ths of a pawn. And anyway, that's enough review. So we're looking at bishop c5. That is the second most common line response to the Scotch Gambit, and is still done at high levels of play. We're not going to do the common response, which is c3, which puts us a little bit ahead. We're going to do knight to g5, which makes the game equal, but takes it into areas where we have a lot less to learn. There's a lot more trickiness. And because there's a lot less to learn, we can map it a lot deeper and know it a lot better, which is, again, what I keep advocating is that the depth, the difference between how well you know the opening as opposed to how well your opponent knows the opening is the dominant factor on the likelihood that you come out of the opening with an advantage, and not the starting engine score of the opening. If your opponent knows the opening just as good as you, and it's an inferior opening, then yeah, maybe it's going to end up coming out worse for you. But the problem is, not everyone has finite time, and so they're not going to be spending the lion's share of their time learning how to defend against this. They're going to be learning how to defend against the common thing. And so the likelihood of us knowing it deeper, if we make this be our main line, is a lot higher. And so we end up knowing it several moves deeper than our opponent, which is worth more than 20 points right here. The difference between c3 and knight g5. So we're doing knight g5. So that was a quick refresher. And let's see here, bishop c5, knight g5. All right. Knight h6, d5, knight e5. Those are the three common responses. We've covered 2 of those. Today we're covering the third, d5. All right, so they go d5. We are now 93 points ahead, but it's very likely to go up from here. Bishop takes d5. is our response. Notice that if we did e takes d5, we would be 31 points behind instead of 74 points ahead. So don't be tempted by taking with the pawn thinking it's going to drive their knight. It turns out badly in the tactics that follow. So bishop takes d5, and now here's where they need to now go knight h6 anyway, which was the main line originally before they gave us a free pawn on d5. They need to go knight h6 here to keep the score down at a reasonable, a mere 91. If they instead do either the other two common moves, so there's knight h6 that they need to do. They need to go knight h6. If they go knight e5, they're 215 points behind. And if they go bishop e6, that's what we're studying today, the most common, happens almost half the time, they're 443 points behind. So a really bad blunder that's going to end them the game. All right, now, if we take a look at that, bishop e6, we can see that there's two top moves. We can take their knight at c6 right now with our bishop check, and then take the bishop on e6 with our knight preparing our fork. The problem is that allows them multiple branches. They're all very rarely played, but it allows them multiple branches to branch off on, and the likelihood of them doing one of those branches is a lot higher than if we take with the knight first. If we take with a knight, if you look at the statistics and the responses and how often they do it, there are less branches and less likelihood of them doing them, because it's harder for our opponent to see at this point that we're going to trade off our bishop for that knight on c6 and then go queen h5 check. And so this reduces how many opportunities they have to stir the pot and create more lines for us to have to learn. We want to reduce that. For example, if we take check, they can go bishop d7. And that is now a similar line that gives them a similar score, and then we have to learn how to play it. And if they don't do bishop to d7, but they take back with the pawn, and now we take with the knight, they've still got bishop b4 check, which creates complications that we have to learn, or queen e7, which even though it hangs a bishop, they were going to lose that bishop anyway. So now we've got like 3 potential lines that this might turn into, whereas if we take on e6, there's less lines and less likelihood that they're going to go down. So I prefer the knight capturing first, save that bishop takes c6 tactic. Don't let them see that's what you're going to do next yet, because a lot of these players are rated in the 1300 to 1500 range, and it's more difficult for people in that range to see that you're going to clear both the pieces off of the 5th rank here and then do that fork on h5 and win their bishop. So take with the knight first, they take back, and now take the knight on c6 check, and then they take back with the pawn, and then go queen h5 check, and they go g6, and then win that bishop on c5. And let's look at how much people branch off of those. So if we go over here and look at my mapper, as soon as they go bishop e6 and then we take with the knight, it's pretty much, there's no other common moves but taking that knight back. We take with check, there's no other common moves but taking back. We go queen h5 check, there's no other common moves but g6. We take with the queen, and now we get our first branching, only after we've won the free bishop. And then we've got 4 common moves at that point. Queen d6 is their optimal one. So a quick note, before this combo started, as soon as they went bishop e6, in this position here, it is not super obvious. This combination that wins us the game is not super obvious. I have seen high-level players miss the opportunity for a quick and easy game and take that bishop, and then after taking back, taking that pawn. And they end up having a game where their opponent has fight left, and they make the game very hard, and they miss that opportunity. So don't miss that opportunity. Cash in on it by unleashing this combination. All right. Once we've unleashed it and gotten to this point, and you can see the scores of that, we will look at the 4 branches from there. We'll look at the common one, but we'll glance at which 4 are common. So getting back to the beginning here, we're at a score of 457, and then they need to go bishop b4 check here, or we're going to get another 40 points. And that is played, let's get back to the beginning of this combo, right when we take, let's see, knight just took over here, and knight just took over here. Yes. So right here, the engine says play bishop b4 check as black, and it's 40 points better. Actually, 48. All right. And yet it's played 0% of the time. Oh no, it's even less. Let's see, bishop b4 check. 9 times. 9 out of 27,000 games. Players of this rating spotted it. So this is what I mean. This line's a lot less likely for them to see it. But that is something they might do. And if they go bishop b4 check, we respond with c3. We're going to pick up their bishop anyway, we're gonna trade off 2 pieces for 2 pieces, and then we're going to get their bishop as well. But it is a different line that we will have to learn, but it's a lot less frequent than the other options we have. So anyway, what's next? F takes back, and now bishop takes is clearly the winner. Takes. Now they've got to take back with the b pawn. There's the other scores if they don't. They take back, and then we've got our queen h5, and we are sitting at almost 500 points at this point. 492, 480. Okay, so 97. 97 is the most common response after we come out of it, and knight e7 is not the optimal one. That makes them lose another 55 points, as if their troubles weren't bad enough. They need to go queen d6 at this point. But that's not the common move. 97 is. You can see the percentages is here. 97 is 34% of the time. Queen d6, their top engine move, is the 4th most common move. Only played 10% of the time. So they go 97. And let's take a look at the scores there. All right, now we can see here that as soon as they go 97, our optimal moves are in order at this point. The engine can see knight a3, c3, knight d2, bishop f4, queen e5, and these scores are between 552 and 501. So we can see that there's a lot of good moves here, and I chose the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 10th strongest move. I mapped out all of these, and I much prefer the bishop g5, even though it is less points. So engine score, this is an example. I'm often choosing engine score, but this is one of the examples I'm not going to choose engine score as my top move. Why? Because I want the queen trade to an easy game. Into an easy endgame that is cut and dry with way less branching. Let's make our life easy, not spending a lot of time down this line that's only going to occur probably against players that are much lower rated, so we can save our resources, our time of mapping lines for the more important lines where we're playing higher rated players. It dramatically cuts down lines because let's make a note here. 552 is the best line, and if we go in, it's 550, and then we go in again, and it's 554, and we keep... Okay, so yeah, it's pretty stable. So about 550 points is what we could get, and we're sacrificing 50 points of that by going bishop g5. But let's see what happens at the end. Are we gonna be at 500, or are we gonna be a little higher? So bishop g5. As soon as we go bishop g5, look how much more forcing this is. We're going to get 550 if they don't go queen d6. So right off the bat, we're getting that 50 points back if they don't trade queens. So if they choose not to trade queens because they don't want to go down to a simplified endgame, then we're going to have a score just as good as the very top engine move. So that's one attraction to bishop to g5. It also forces some trading down. They have 4 responses they might do, and we might actually trade the bishop for the knight and get the queen off the board and have, you know, a pair of rooks and a piece. Really easy endgames. All right, so they go queen d6. And that's where we're going to lose 50 points. You know, quotes around the word lose. Queen d6 is how, or queen takes d6. We're going to take that queen. They're going to take back, and we can see that the random fluctuations of the engine, it thought it was 500 back here, right when we did bishop g5, but look at it slowly grow. All right, 501 for bishop g5. Then they do their top engine move. Now we're at 509. We trade queens. 514, 520. We go bishop f6. 527, 515 if they go king d7 here. And let us have the rook for, oh geez. No, yeah, who's going to do that? Rook f8. Bishop takes d4. Now we're at 513, a little bit more than the 500 initially, and then the 2 common moves, c5 and castle queenside, puts us at 541 and 547. So it's likely we're going to get those points back, and if not, we're going to get into a very simplified game. So there's the rest of our moves. Let's take a look at them one last time, make sure there's no other branching. Oh yeah, and the amount of games, right? So there's 756 games that reach this point. They do that queen move, we trade off. Now we're down to 77 games. We fork right there. Now we're down to 6 games because out of the 77 games that reached this point, 75% of them traded off again, the bishop for the knight, instead of winning that extra pawn in the middle there. And now we're down to just 2 games. So c5 here and castle queenside are equally common, and there's only 2 games of data. So not enough to determine whether those are going to be consistently common or not. If they, one quick note, if they do castle, the other move that happened in this position, castle queenside, don't take the pawn on a7. Don't give them any counterplay. That's what the player did here. But if we look at the engine score here, after trading down, let's see here, bishop forks, a rook comes out, bishop takes. Okay, they castle queenside. Take a look at bishop takes a7, 516. Instead, don't give him some counterplay. Develop your pieces. We've got a knight undeveloped, a rook undeveloped. We're not castled. He's got both his rooks out and staring at us. He's got his knight ready to spring in action. Center pawns are all ready to go. And we've got, we're ahead in material, but our material is sitting around. So don't go pawn grabbing at this point. Catch up on development by bringing out your knight to d2 or c3. And you can even go bishop b3 at this point. Anyway, that's the line. Until next time, thank you.